10 years ago, we played a dumb game called Infection Tag. However, it was also an important tradition of camaraderie, a rite of passage, and a tool of sociological development.
No. So we almost got mauled by a bear. Take
if he jumps in the fence, we're gonna have to kill it. It's gonna suck.
Now, you've probably played Infection Tag before.
You mean that game for kids? Shut up.
Infection Tag is basically just regular tag with a few extra rules.
That sounds stupid. Shut up.
Step 1. First, we need to decide who is it. This was usually decided randomly. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Alright, he's it. Step 2. The tagger must give everyone else 5 seconds head start to run away before he can start tagging people. 5 seconds, that's all you get.
Tag, I got you. It doesn't count.
Step 3. The game keeps going until the tagger has tagged or infected everyone else, or until the tagger rage quits. This sucks! I quit! I was right here, I warned you. In Infection Tag, once a tagger tags someone else, they also have to join them in being infected. Kind of like a venereal disease. Now, what was the main reason for playing this game so much as kids? It was free. Growing up in affordable housing, we had just enough money to play outside for free. No gym membership or costly extracurriculars required when you can sweat your body weight off and have fun running around with your crusty neighbors all day. Were there any economic benefits to playing? No, but because the game was so prominently played back then, there are many other positives and negatives to playing Infection Tag. It was fun for everybody. As a straight, conventionally attractive male, I can safely say that everyone loved playing Infection. It was inclusive, diverse, wholesome, fun.
The things you've done.
As a straight male, I can say I had lots of fun. We played with a diverse assortment of kids, where we made fun of that diversity. It was a game of equality, where everyone had an equal chance to win, so long as they used their strengths to their advantage.
The things you've done.
It was a game of cruel hierarchy, where the slowest kids were often caught first, and the wittiest, most liked kids often got to win. No one felt targeted or discriminated against by being chosen as a tagger disproportionately. We just voted democratically on who would be it every single time.
The things you've done.
Anyone who was a slow runner or perceived as annoying back then was often chosen to be it out of spite. It was a great method of spending time with friends and making wholesome memories.
The things you've done.
Playing Infection Tag meant a 50-50 chance of either being miserable or having a good time, and half the memories of Infection Tag are either problematic or forgotten entirely.
Oh, I'm going.
What really was the purpose of playing Infection Tag if half the time it sucked? Well, the games we play as kids often serve as microscopic reflections of the broader societal context. Everything from our social norms, our values, our language, and media all has an influence that trickles down into the games that kids play. So let's go back to the context of 2012. The context told us black president equals no more racism. So we'd often rip each other for our racial heritage. It was not uncommon to be able to gain bonus comedy points for being able to roast another kid while playing Infection. It was a sort of litmus test to see if you could handle the real world of racism, which I know contradicts what I said earlier about us believing we lived in a post-racial society, but that just goes to show you even back then, we knew better. 2012. Where the fashion of peak masculinity was skinny jeans with wide sagging waists and PVC pipes for legs. Back in 2012, like any previous era, if you like WWE, football, or basketball, that meant you were a cool dude. If you like Bratz, or Adele, or Empathy, you were most likely a girl. If you play with Legos, or your DSi, or rode one of these, you were too innocent to label. See, I was a trailblazer because I loved playing football. I sucked at it, but I also loved playing Smash Bros. I sucked at it. I loved riding my scooter, playing with Legos. I sucked at those too. And if you didn't fit into the aforementioned roles very neatly, it actually benefited you during Infection Tag because people forgot you existed. Now, in terms of athletic context, the London Olympics were in full swing, and Usain Bolt just cemented himself as the fastest man of all time. So being a fast runner was one of the ultimate traits of attraction. Now, was I fast? Well, I don't want to brag, but as a kid, I could easily outrun a bunch of slower kids. Now, some of the fastest runners back then were me, of course, Junior, and Julian. Now, Julian had a really long stride, and he could easily outpace any of the crusty-eyed dogs in the neighborhood. And Junior was like the cooler, taller version of me, which doesn't mean much, because I'm basically the same. But us three, We were the trinity of fast boys. We made the other kids cry countless times in defeat when they couldn't catch us. We were so cool. Now, being part of this elusive club made me realize something. By playing outside and playing Infection, we weren't just playing games, we were reinforcing a social hierarchy. But that's not too different from how we pick our leaders today. We go, who looks the hottest? Who looks the least ridiculous? Who sounds the smartest? Back in 2012, having a fast smile time was like a keystone to being cool.
Fast as fuck, boy.
Which points back to the main reason why we play dumb games. Despite the cringe, despite the embarrassment, despite the annoyance, all of us wanted to go outside to get a piece of that social credit pie. Back then, going outside and potentially making a friend or having a good interaction was worth risking being made fun of.
Bro, you gay? Yeah, well, you're illegal. Hey, look, it's Martin Luther Cookie. Hey, look, it's what you eat for dinner, right? Got him.
Not funny. Not funny. That's not funny. Building a childhood network of connections, good and bad, is vital to the ability to make judgments as an adult. We need memories, dumb and profound, not just to give us a chuckle when we're feeling down, but to help us orient our present struggles with the past that they're connected to. And this is crucial as, one, kids seem to be playing outside less, which, and I'm not saying it's their fault, and I'm definitely not saying that kids aren't good for anything these days just because they spend most of the time online, especially because the world that's been built for them to play outside is pretty sucky. But two, the interactions that are replacing going outside are not really suitable replacements.
My headphones are awesome.
Again, I don't hate the idea of playing online with your friends. There's nothing wrong with hanging out with your friends on social media either. However, those things are more tertiary, supplemental. They should be supplemental, at least, to the idea of being face-to-face with your friends, your cohorts, your acquaintances, and even your enemies, and interacting in person. And three, kids with the ability to connect their in-person childhood experiences to the broader societal context can better connect to sociologically minded education. I mean, if you want to teach people in schools, in high school, it's going to be hard for them to understand how things connect on a broader level if all they can think about is, as a kid, they watched wrecked feminist videos or something. Or Coco Melon. Ew. Kids who played in a close vicinity of friends and activities can hopefully pick up on how things like culture, language, perception shape how they're treated and how they treat others. A prime example of this is back in the day playing Infection, we introduced a rule change. Basically just a rule that stated that if you were tagged and you would try to approach someone who wasn't it, you had to clarify that you had been tagged if they asked you. And if you didn't clarify and you tagged them anyway, then the tag didn't count. And we introduced this rule because the three fastest guys were getting salty about being tricked by the slower kids because they didn't tell us they were tagged. What isn't illegal, it wasn't ever clarified as a rule beforehand, but we introduced it because we were perceived as the fastest and our opinions mattered more back then. It was a lot easier to implement a rule like this, as opposed to if someone who was perceived as annoying back then tried to introduce a new rule, they'd just be like, "Ah, dude, you're just salty because you suck." Ultimately, play games. I don't care if you're a kid, an adult, a teenager, or an old fart. Play games. Play games not to win, but to learn how to better bend the rules.